What's up? My name is Simon, and in this video I'm going to show you step by step how to use Webflow to create, design and publish your website. I structured this Webflow tutorial to make it as easy as possible for you to learn all the most important features of Webflow, and at the same time I'm going to walk you through the entire process of creating a new website from scratch to the point of actually publishing your new website. The goal is that at the end of watching this tutorial and following along with it, you'll be able to create, design and publish your new beautiful looking website using Webflow. I'll leave all the topics I'm going to cover in this video down below in the timestamps, so you can always jump around or come back to certain parts later on. Also, if you find this tutorial helpful, make sure to click that thumbs up button so that more people can find this information. With that being said, let's get into the tutorial. Alright, so welcome here on my computer. As you can see, I'm already on the Webflow website where we're going to go ahead and create a new Webflow account. Now, if you want to support me and my channel, you can use the link down below in the video description to create your free Webflow account. This is my personal referral link, which means that if at some point you do decide to go for a paid plan, then I will get a small commission from whatever you pay to Webflow at no additional cost to you. This is basically how I can make all those free videos for you guys on YouTube. So if you want to use my link, that would be highly appreciated, but if not, that's okay as well. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to click on Get Started. It's free right here. And then you can either sign in with your Google account or continue with an email. In my case, I'm just going to use a new email address. So let's use madixtutorials@gmail.com. Click continue here. Then I'm going to create a password like this. Continue. All right, so how should we greet you? Let's say Madix Media. Continue. We've got a couple of quick questions. Let's go. Okay, what's the best describes your role? So let's say we are an entrepreneur. Let's continue. Who will you be building websites for? Let's say I'm going to do it for myself. Continue. Do you have an experience building websites? Let's say I have some experience. Continue. And then I want to build a website. Let's say we're going to do a business website today. Click finish. And that should take us inside of our new Webflow account. Now, the first thing that you see when you create a new account is this pop-up where they kind of want to help you getting started with Webflow by taking a short interactive tutorial, which is in my opinion actually pretty good. So if you want to, you can just pause this video, take this short tutorial right here, and then come back to this video because what I'm going to show you is a lot more in depth. But I'm going to skip this right here. So let me just try to reload the page and then we go to our dashboard so we can actually start a new project. So all I did now is I went to webflow.com and it already I'm already logged in right now. So and I'm going to click this away, this tutorial. So right now we have an initial project right here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new project. So I'm going to go to the top right here, click on new project. And now we have the possibility to either choose a template from Webflow. They have a couple of free templates and they also have a couple of paid templates that you can purchase. But what we're going to do in this tutorial to really learn the basics of Webflow is we're going to start with a blank site. So we're going to choose blank site here, click select, and we're going to name this tutorial website. And we're going to click create project. All right, so that takes us inside of the Webflow designer where we can start building and designing our new website. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a quick overview over this interface that you see right here. And we're going to start on the top left. So here you can see this little Webflow icon. And this is where you can go to your dashboard. And the dashboard is basically just where you see an overview of all of your projects. Right now we have two projects in there, the one that we have just created and the one that is created by default when you create a new Webflow account. A project is basically just a new website that you have created. And then we can also go to the project settings right here, which is something that we're going to go into later on in the tutorial where we're going to look at the most important settings. And you can also access your editor right here, which is like a very easy way to change content on an already published website later on. And then right here is where you can change between different pages on your website. Right now, as you can see, we only have the home page set up. And we can also create a new page by clicking right here. And we're going to also do that later on in the tutorial. This little eye icon that you see right here is where you can click on, and then it will preview your website, and you will see exactly how it will look like for a visitor on your website. It's also a feature that we're going to use a lot in this tutorial. Then here you can see different so-called breakpoints. This is just basically different screen sizes and different devices. So this is very useful because we're going to create everything on this breakpoint right here, which is just a desktop screen, and then everything will kind of trickle down into these other devices. And later on, once we have finished our site, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these breakpoints. So we're going to go to tablet, we're going to go to mobile landscape, and also mobile, the mobile portrait mode, and we're going to make sure all the content looks good on these devices as well. Because as you probably know, a lot of the traffic nowadays, or most of it actually, comes from mobile devices. And we can also kind of drag this, change the screen sizes right here to actually make sure on every screen our content looks very good. And then right here you have the redo and undo button, which is very useful as well. We can see that it automatically saves your changes a lot, so you don't need to worry about saving anything. And here you could export your code if you wanted to. And this is to share your project. And then at the end of the tutorial, we're also going to publish our website by using this button right here. And then on the right side here is where you can make all the changes to your elements. So if I drag in an element, so let's say I'm going to drag in, let's say just a heading right here, then I can make all the changes by using this, this section here. So we have layout, we have spacing, we have size, we have position, typography, we have background, we have borders and effects. I'm not going to go too much in this editor section right here because while following along with this tutorial, you'll get familiar with this editor pretty quickly because we're going to use it all the time. So let me just delete this again. And then here on the left side is where you can with this plus here, you can drag in different elements. So we have different sections, lists, buttons, so all kinds of different elements, and we're going to use a lot of them in this tutorial. Then you have symbols, which is something I'm going to explain later in the tutorial. You have the navigator, which is a very nice way to kind of see the structure of your website. I'm also going to go into this later on in the tutorial. We have pages, which is basically the same button as this right here, where you can see an overview of your pages, you can create new pages, and so on. You have the CMS, which you can use if you have CMS items on your website. And this is for e-commerce websites right here, which we're not going to use in this tutorial. And this one is for your assets, so all your pictures, your images, your files that you're going to be using on your website. You can upload everything right here. And then you also have settings here. And here on the bottom, you can have some links to some tutorials or a search function like this. So yeah, that's basically the overview of the entire interface of the Webflow Designer. All right, so let's start building out our new website. So the first thing that I like to do is drag in all the assets that I'm going to use for the new website that I'm about to build, which means I'm going to drag in all the different images and files that I'm going to use on the website. To do that, we're going to go to the assets on the left side here, and we're just going to click on the little upload button here. And I'm just going to drag in all the different images that I will probably use in this tutorial. So I'm going to click on open, and then we'll just upload all the different files in this assets library, so I don't need to upload it later on in the tutorial. And then we're going to start by creating our hero section, which is like the first thing that people see when they visit your website. So let's just close out of the assets right here. And then we're going to click on the little plus sign on the top left. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag in a new section like this. And then inside of our section, we're going to drag in a container, which will just help us keeping up a good structure of our website. And then let's say I want to have some text on the left side and an image on the right side. So it would make sense to add two columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again go to the little plus sign, and I'm going to drag in columns inside of my container. And what you can do here is you can maybe add 3 columns or 4 columns, And you can also decide on how wide the columns are by just dragging this to the left and to the right. But I'm gonna just leave it at the same width like this. I'm gonna close out of this menu. Now let's just go to the navigator real quick, which is this button right here. And here you can see the structure of your website. So we have the body, which is like the entire site. Then inside of our body, we have a section. Inside of this section, there's a container. And inside of the container, there is a column. And then later on, when we drag in different elements, you will see the elements will show up under the different columns right here. So this is a very nice way to just kind of, when you kind of get lost on which element is in what column or which box, then you just go to the navigator and you can see a very nice overview of where all your elements are inside of. So let's start by adding a heading. So we're going to go to the plus sign, we're going to go down to typography, and we're going to just drag in a heading inside of our first column. Then I'm also going to drag in a, let's say, a paragraph below my heading. And then I'm also going to drag in a button. So let's drag in the button just below here. And again, we can go to the navigator and we can see now in the first column, we have a heading, a paragraph, and a button. Now in the second column, I said I want to have an image. So let's just go to the plus sign, drag in our image like this. And we can already choose an image by clicking here. And now it opens up our asset library where we have already uploaded all of our content. So let's say I'm going to choose this image right here and just close out of this. And just like this, we have filled up both of these columns. Now you can just, when you want to change an element to a different column or a different container or section, you can just click on it and drag it around. So if I want to have, like, let's say the button here below my, my image, what I can do is just, I can drag my button below right here or on the top, and then I have the button inside of my column number 2, and then I can just put it back like this. Just drag it up here, and then it will go back to the first column. So what I want to do now is I want to center all the elements that I've just dragged into my columns here in the middle horizontally inside of my columns, because I think that will look a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside of the layout options of my columns. So first I have to make sure my columns are selected. So I can either just go to the navigator, click on columns, or I just click on the element right here in my canvas and make sure it says columns here on the top. You can always change the element just by just clicking here and then choosing whatever you want to change. But now I'm just going to go to columns, and then I'm going to go to the right side menu here, and I'm going to look at the layout. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change to flex layout, and then I'm going to go to align, and I'm going to go to this, which means align in the center. So I'm going to click here, and as you can see, it will automatically align in the center of my columns. What I can also do is give my elements a bit of space between each other. So for example, let's say I want to have some space between my heading and my paragraph, and between the paragraph and my button. So all I have to do is click on the paragraph right here, and then I can use the spacing feature on the right side. So all I have to do is increase the margin on the bottom and on the top. So all you got to do is click here and then just drag it and just increase the space however you think it looks good. You can also, if you hold down the Option key, it will change it on the top and on the bottom simultaneously. If you hold down the Shift key, it will add spacing on all 4 sides. But this doesn't make too much sense right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add like 30 pixels on the top and on the bottom right here. I can also maybe give my section a bit more spacing. So I can just make sure my section is selected right here. And then I can do the same thing. I can just hold on Option and just increase, maybe give me 30 pixels on the top and on the bottom. So let's now start changing some of the content. So let's say I'm building a website for a social media marketing agency. So let's say the heading could be, we scale your business on social media. And then I have prepared a small text for the subheading. I'm just going to paste it in here. And then we're also going to change the button text to contact us. And now what we can do is you can also change the font. So what I could do is I could go to the heading and change the font right here on the right side on typography. But what I want to do is I want to set a default font for the entire site. So rather than changing it for each individual element, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it for the entire body, because like we've seen here on the navigator, everything sits inside our body. So when we change something inside of the body, it will change for all the different elements inside of our body. So I'm going to make sure the body is selected. I'm going to go to the right side to typography, and I'm going to change from Arial to, let's say, Montserrat. And just like that, we have also changed the typography of our heading and of our paragraph and also of our button. So now what we can do is maybe go to the heading and make some more changes. Maybe we want to have the scale, the size to 35 pixels. 35. And the height is fine. But we want to have it caps on the first letters like this. And then for the paragraph, we're going to change it to, let's say, 18. And we're going to change the height to 24. And I think that's good. Now for contact us, we're also going to change it to, going to make the first letter capital like this. So next, we're going to go ahead and change the design of our button right here. But before we do that, I want to quickly talk about classes, because classes are a very clever way of Webflow to organize all the different designs of all of your elements, which makes it very easy to design something once, and then you can copy the design that you have made, for example, to the button, to all the other buttons in your project as well. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in a second here. So as soon as you change something about an element, and there will automatically be a new style class created for that specific element. For example, this button right here, we have capitalized these words that you see, contact us. And after we have done that, it automatically created a new class called button that you see right here. Now, if we would delete this class like this, then you can see the words aren't capitalized anymore. So there aren't any design changes to the button yet. We can also add these classes manually and also combine different classes, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So let's manually add a class to this button. So what I'm going to name this, let's say we want to make an orange button. So I'm going to name this orange button class, also orange button. So now everything that we change now based on the design here will be saved under this specific orange button class. So let's go ahead and start changing something. So let's change the color. Let's make this in dark orange, kind of like this. And let's also make it round. So we're going to go to borders. We're going to increase the radius to, let's say, 100 pixels. And let's also make this a bit larger. Let's make this 20 pixels. Also increase the padding like this and also like this. And then let's also make this all caps like this. And maybe it's even a bit too large, so I'm going to make this 18 pixels. Okay, cool. So let's say I'm finished with the design right now. So this is my orange button. Now what I want to do is, let's say I want to add more buttons to my website. So I could drag in a new button like this. And now instead of making the same design changes to this button, all I would have to do is go to the top here, to the top right, and look for my orange button class. So I'm going to type in orange, and there we go. We have the orange button class, and now I have assigned this class to this new button, and then the button style will be exactly the same as this one that we have just created. Now when I want to change something about this specific button right here, let's say I make this smaller, then I can add a new class, which is then a combo class. So I'm going to add smaller button. And now what I can do is I can just change the size of the font to, let's say, 15. And now this button doesn't change because we have added a new class right here. So now this is a combo class. And this way you can kind of create an entire structure of designs for your website, which is very helpful when you have a big project. Okay, so let's delete this button again. And another thing I want to show you is how to change the state of this button when you actually hover over it with your mouse. That's something you see a lot of on different websites. When you hover over an element, then it actually changes. So especially for buttons, this is very useful. So all you have to do is you have to go to the top right here to the selector, actually select the button first, and then you have to change by clicking on the arrow to hover. And this is basically just another class. So now we can make changes to this button, and everything we change here will be only visible when people hover over this element. So let's make this a bit brighter. So let's change the color here to, let's say, to make it a bit more, maybe a bit more yellow, kind of like this. Then we can click out of it. And now when we hover over this element, it will actually change colors. We can also look at it from the preview mode and we can see this changes. So now I'm already pretty happy with my hero section right here. Maybe something else I could do is I could add a background to this hero section. So let's say I want to add a gradient. So let's click on the section. And by the way, we can also change the name here to a hero section, just so we have a bit more organization and structure. And let's go down to background, and we could either add an image as a background, or we could just add maybe a solid color or a gradient. So let's click on this plus sign here, and in this example, let's add a gradient. And here we can change the color of the upper part. So let's say we make this a light blue, kind of like this. And we're going to leave the bottom part at white. So I think this looks pretty good. Maybe I want to have this section a bit larger. So what I can do is I can go to size, go to height, and let's make this, let's say 80 VH, which is 80 viewport height, which means it fills about 80% of the screen of your visitor. But what I'm noticing just now is that my elements, my columns right here, aren't in the middle of my section. So what I have to do is I have to go to the layout options of my section and make sure everything is centered in the middle. So I'm going to again make sure I select the hero section, go to the layout options, go to flex layout, and horizontal is already checked, and then I have to align it in the middle right here, and just like that it is sitting in the middle of my section. Okay, so let's move on and add a nav bar to the top of our website. So again, we're going to go to the little plus sign here. We're going to scroll all the way down and look for nav bar. And then we're going to drag the nav bar to the top of our website. And then I noticed that we have a little gap here between our hero section and our nav bar. And actually, I want to get rid of this gap. So I have to go back to the hero section, and I'm going to remove the padding right here that we have added before to this section. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of the nav bar, and I want to make it the same color as I have here on my gradient on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the hero section, and I'm going to go to the background gradient that I've added, and I'm going to check out what kind of color I have added here on the top. I'm just going to copy this color. And then I'm going to go to the nav bar again, going to go to background color, and I'm just going to paste this color right in here. And let's see. And now we have the same blue on the top, which I think it looks pretty good. And now the first thing I'm going to do is add an image here in the brand section of the nav bar, which is going to be my logo of the website. So I'm going to go to the plus sign, go down to image. I'm going to drag the image inside of the brand. I'm going to choose an image that I have already in my library. And let's say I'm just going to use this logo right here. And obviously it's way too big. So I can just drag this down until it's the right size. So let's say like this. And now it's not really centered nicely here in my nav bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the brand container here. And let's increase the height of the brand container. I think the nav bar is 60 pixels. So I'm going to also make the height here 60 pixels of the brand icon here. And then I'm going to go to the layout, going to go to flex layout, and going to go to vertical. And I'm going to center everything like this. And now my logo is very centered here in the nav bar, which looks a lot better. And now we're going to go ahead and look at some of these nav links here on the top. So obviously you can change all these links right here. So if you want to remove the home button, just hit delete, or just right click, click on delete. Maybe I also want to add a new nav button called, let's say, our clients. So I'm just going to click on duplicate, and then I'm going to change this to, going to change the name to our clients. And we can also change the styles. Like we've seen before, as soon as we change the style here, it's going to add a new class. And like we've also seen before, we could just add the same class as we have added to this button. So if you would do that, let's look for our class, orange button, then it would change this button with the same style as this button right here, but it doesn't really look nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class. So I'm going to undo. And I'm just going to make this also all caps. So let's go to typography and make this all caps like this. And now it has created a new class called Nav Link. So what I can do is just go to the other Nav Links and then just also add the Nav Link class, and it will just take over the style of the Nav Link class. So now I want to add a new section just below my hero section, kind of featuring the clients that this social media marketing agency business has already worked with. And to do that, we're going to use the grid layout. So first we're going to add a new section. Just go to the plus sign, drag in a new section. Then we're going to also drag in a new container for our structure. And then we're going to drag in a new grid, just like this, inside of our container. Now, you can now on the right side change how many columns and how many rows your grid should have. In my case, I want to have 4 columns and only 1 row. So I'm going to delete 1 row here and add 2 more columns, just like this. Then I'm going to also add a heading. So I'm going to drag in a heading, and let's try to drag it into the container. Now, as you can see, it's not inside of the container. So instead of kind of trying to drag it in here, what I like to do is go to the navigator right here. And it's actually, as you can see here, the heading is inside of the hero section. So I'm going to drag my heading inside of my container, and just like that, we have it inside of the container. Now I want to have the same style as this heading right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check what kind of class this has. This is heading 2. So I'm going to click on this heading and also add the heading 2 class, heading 2. And just like that, we have also took the same design as we have here, and it's also centered. Now we're going to double click the grid, and we're going to start dragging in an image, just like this image. We're going to choose an image, and I've prepared a couple of logos here. So I'm going to just choose a logo, and maybe this logo is a bit too large. So what I can do is I can go to the width and maybe change this to 90%. Make sure you select percent, 90. And then I have already created a class for this image called image2. So I can rename this to maybe logo. And then I can use the same classes on my other logos right here. And I also want to center this. So let's go to the grid, make sure the grid is selected, and then make sure it's aligned in the center. And then I could either just drag in the other images right here, or I could just copy and paste them in here, and just click on the little gear icon, go to replace image, and then just select all the other logos, and they will automatically take the same class as we have just created for the first logo. So let's just choose this, and just like that, let's also change the heading to who we work with. And just like that, we have a new section with our featured companies here. Now, what we could also do is kind of make all of these logos gray to not have too many colors on our website. So what I would do here is just select the grid and then go all the way to the bottom to filters. and I'm gonna add this is blur. I'm gonna add a saturation filter, and I'm gonna remove the I'm gonna lower the saturation to 0%, and just like that, we have gray logos. And as you can see here, you can just start building out your website by just adding more sections and so on. Now, what I also want to show you is kind of pre-built layouts, which you can also add. So let's say we want to add a new section on the bottom here. We're going to go to a little plus sign, go to, instead of adding an element, we're going to go to layouts, which are like pre-built elements. So there are already sections in there, already containers, elements, and so on. So all you need to do is replace these elements with your own content. So let's say we want to add a gallery on the bottom here. So we just drag it in. Actually, I want to have it on the bottom. Let's just drag it in here on the top, and then we can also reconfigure here. We can drag the gallery on the bottom, right on the bottom, or maybe drag the section up here. Okay, just like this. So now we have a gallery here, and again, I'm going to change this class to heading 2, which is our heading class. And this I'm going to change to the paragraph class, paragraph 2. So I'm going to change this to paragraph 2. And here, let's say our portfolio. And here you could just, this is a so-called Lightbox element, which means that you can feature different work of yours. You can add a thumbnail, and then you can feature, when people click on that thumbnail, it will open up like a larger image or a video or something like that. So what I'm going to do real quick is add a couple of images here so you can see exactly what I mean. So now I have added a couple of thumbnails for these Lightbox elements. And when we go to preview, we can click on these elements, and then it will show a larger picture again, which is nice if you have like a portfolio website and you want to show off your art or your photography or your videos. But we don't have anything in there yet. So what we have to do is we have to go back here. We have to click, let's say we're going to start with this one. I'm going to click on the element, and now we want to go to the little gear icon here. And we're going to go to Lightbox settings, and we're going to replace, let's say I want to put in a video. So I'm going to replace it by a video. And here you can just put in a URL of a YouTube video or of a Vimeo URL, so whatever you want to. Or you could also upload an image, like the larger image of this that you have as a thumbnail. So as an example, I'm just going to put in a URL of one of my YouTube videos. Click Save here. And then when we go to the little preview icon, when we now click here, it will show up, my YouTube video will show up, and people can watch it here on my website. And you can do the same thing with all of the other thumbnails here on this portfolio gallery. Now, another thing I want to show you is you can animate each element here in Webflow basically however you want to. So one thing I want to show you is maybe if we hover over this element, that it kind of zooms in a little to have a little interaction effect. So I'm going to click on the element, and then I'm going to change from the regular state to the hover state, because I want to have the effect start when I hover over this element with my mouse. So I'm going to go to the top right here, and I'm going to change this to, I'm going to add the hover class. And now I'm going to scroll all the way down and go to 2 and 3D transforms, go to the little plus sign. And now I'm going to go to scale, and I'm going to just add, let's say, this to 1.2. So as you can see here, it just changes. And now let's see. And now when I hover over it, it changes the size. And you can also look at a preview. But I want it to be like smooth. So I don't want it to have it instantly. So I'm going to go back here. And now again, I want to make sure to select the element. And now we don't have to go to the hover state. We just have to select the element. And now we're going to scroll all the way down and go to transitions. And we're going to go to the plus sign and change the transition speed of scale. So let's see if we can find scale somewhere. I think it's, let's go to all properties. So this is like all different effects. And now we're going to change the duration from 200 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds like this. And now when we go to preview, we can see that it's kind of smoothly zooming in, and it's not kind of as abrupt as before. And as all of these gallery elements have the same class, gallery thumbnail class, all of these will kind of behave the same way. So I could now go ahead and kind of keep building out this website, but I think you kind of understand now how to kind of structure a website using sections, containers, columns, grids, and so on, and how to change all the elements using this editor bar here on the right side. So I'm going to move on. I'm just going to drag in a couple of more things, like I'm going to use the pre-built layouts. I'm going to also add a contact form section here on the bottom, and then also a footer. And then I'm going to move on and show you some more important things about Webflow. So let's say now we are finished with our home page here. So what we want to do is we want to create a new page. Let's say we want to create an About Us page. So now we go to the page icon here, go to create new page, and then we're going to name this page About Us. And you also have all the metadata section here on the bottom. You can have a meta description and so on. I'm just going to skip this part because it's self-explanatory. Just go through it on your own and then click on create. And that way we have created a new page when we have a new blank canvas. Now, one thing I want to quickly mention is that if you haven't assigned a plan to your website yet, you'll only get 2 different pages to work with, because the free plan is really only to test out Webflow. And when you launch your page with multiple static pages, you need to add a plan to your page, which we're going to do later on. But now we're going to start building out our About Us page. And one thing that you don't want to do every time is redesign the header and the footer. So what we can do is we can navigate back to our home page by clicking on page here, going to home page. And now what we want to do is we're going to make our header and our footer a so-called symbol. And then we can just drag in the symbol on each of the other static pages. So when we're going to click on the nav bar here, we're going to go to this icon, this little cube icon, and we're going to click on create new symbol. And we're going to name this Nav Bar. Click create symbol. And now we have created a new symbol here. And we're going to do the same thing with our footer, because that's going to be the same thing for every page as well. Right click, click on create symbol, and then we're going to name this footer. Create symbol. And now when we go back to our About Us page, what we can do is we can just click on the little cube icon and just drag in our symbols, our header and our footer. Oh, sorry, this was actually the nav bar. Our footer right here. And now we can start building out the website by just dragging in a new section like this. Drag in a container, just the same way as we have done it before with the home page. Now, one thing you might notice here is that we are back on the Arial font, because this is a new body, because this is a new static site. So this is a completely new body, and we have to, again, change our default typography or default font for this body also to our Montserrat font. So I'm going to select the body, go to typography, and also change this to Montserrat. And then this changes all the fonts here of all the elements inside of this new page. And once you have created all your pages, you want to obviously link your pages to your Nav Bar and Nav Links. So we're going to double click our Nav Bar here, and we're going to assign these links here to all of our pages. So now we have our About page here. So what we can do is click on this link, go to the settings icon here, and now we're going to link this to a page, and we're going to link it to the About page that we are just on right now. And now you notice that this About nav link has turned to blue, which means this is the current state, because we are currently on the About page. So when we want to change the design of how it looks like when somebody is just visiting the About page, we're going to click on this nav link here, and then it will automatically assign, or it'll show you the current class, which means the design that we make, the design changes we make here will be visible when you are currently on this page. So right now the color is blue. So what we could do is maybe change the color back to black or kind of a gray, and then maybe change the weight of the font to semi-bold or something like that. And now when somebody is visiting this page, it will just be bold. So we can also check this out here. And this is how you can change the design for the current state of your nav links. Now, the next thing I want to show you how to do is how to use animations on Webflow. This is a very cool feature that allows you to pretty much animate any element of your website. And it's pretty customizable as well, so you can pretty much do anything you want. And that's also a reason why many people love Webflow. So I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to go back to my homepage. And for example, we're going to animate this picture right here. So what I want to do is when this page loads, I want to have this element kind of fade in from the right side. So first, we're going to go to the interactions panel. So we're going to go to the top right here, click on this icon. And now I'm going to set a trigger for the animation that I'm about to set up. So I want to have this animation run when somebody loads this website. So I'm going to go to page trigger, click on the plus sign, and I'm going to go to page load. And now I can either have this animation start when the page starts loading or when it's finished loading. I'm going to do it when it starts loading. So I'm going to click on start an animation here, going to click on the plus sign, and now we can kind of create our animation. So first, let's give our animation a name. I'm going to name it hero or fade in right. And now let's select our element that we want to animate. Then we're going to click on the little plus sign here. And first we're going to animate the moving of the element. So I'm going to go to move. And on the bottom here, you can change the position of your element. So I'm going to change the x-axis and I'm going to put the element to the right. So I'm just going to make it like 460 pixels to the right. And I'm also want to decrease the opacity for the initial state. And by the way, for the initial state, make sure you go to set as initial state, because this is the initial state of the element before the animation starts. Then I also want to decrease the opacity. So again, I'm going to go to the plus sign here, go to opacity, and I'm going to decrease the opacity on the bottom all the way to 0, and also make sure to set it as an initial state. And now we have set up our initial state of the animation. And now I'm going to set up the state after the animation. So I'm going to go to the plus sign, go to move, and now I want to make sure that the element is back to the middle. So I want to set it to 0 pixels so you can see it would be back here. And now it's also set as an initial state. So I'm going to uncheck the initial state because that's not the initial state, that's the end state. And then I'm going to again go to the plus sign and increase the opacity again. Go to opacity. It's already increased to 100% here, so I'm going to leave it as it is. And we can just kind of merge these two together. And the animation is already kind of finished. So now we can see how this looks like. We can click on play, and this is how it will look like. It's kind of a little bit too fast. So what I can do is go to each of these end states here and change the duration from here 0.7, 0.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds, and do the same thing for this opacity, 1.5 seconds. And also I'm going to change the easing. So I'm going to change from linear to, let's say, out quint, and the same thing with this, from linear to out quint. And now let's play this again. So now it looks a lot smoother. We can make this even, let's say, 2.5 seconds to make it even a bit longer, 2.5. And maybe let's see how this looks like. And now it's kind of even slower. We can also go to the preview here. So this is how it looks like. So this is how you can animate your elements, which is a very, very cool thing to do. Another cool thing you can do is maybe kind of fade in different elements when you scroll down on the website. So we're going to quickly do that as well. So let's just kind of fade in the logos here when we start scrolling on our website. So we're going to go back to the trigger here. Now we're going to use the element trigger. So I'm going to click on the plus sign here, go to while scrolling in view. And now I'm going to select the element. So this would be the grid. And now I'm going to select an action, play scroll animation. And I'm going to go to plus here. And now, again, go to the plus sign. Go to, let's say, opacity. So I'm going to decrease the opacity at 0. And then here, I'm going to increase the opacity again. And now when you scroll, it will change. The opacity will kind of change. So as you can see here on the preview, right on the top, it's kind of almost 0. And now when we scroll down, it will increase the opacity. So maybe this is a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is go back in here and maybe drag this up. So to, let's say, 50%. So now when you are scrolled at 50%, it's already at full opacity. So click save here, go to the eye icon. And as you can see here, now in the middle, it will already be full opacity. But you can also like flip it in or kind of, you can basically do whatever you want with Webflow. I just want to show you how you can kind of animate all your elements right here. So another very important thing you have to do before you start publishing your website, you want to make sure all the content looks good on desktop, but also on all different kinds of screen sizes and all different kinds of devices. And to help you do that, Webflow has these so-called breakpoints. So we create everything normally on the desktop breakpoint, and it will automatically kind of trickle down into smaller devices. And if you want to, you can also add like larger screens like this. You can add the 1440 and also the 1920 pixel. And then you can look on how this looks like on larger screens as well. But this is mostly not a problem on larger screens. The problem starts when you go down to smaller devices. So for example, the phone portrait mode. Like you see, this doesn't look nice at all. So what we have to do is we have to change everything to make it look very nice on mobile as well. And eventually we have to be able to squeeze it up and down, and it should kind of scale perfectly. So the content on, doesn't matter what kind of screen size, it looks perfect. So what you have to know here is that every change that you make here will be automatically changed here, here, and here. And also here, here, and here. So it goes to the right side here and to the left side here. Every change that you make on the tablet breakpoint will also change on the phone landscape breakpoint and the phone portrait breakpoint. But it won't change on this breakpoint right here or any of these. So, and then any changes you make here will also change on this breakpoint, but not on these breakpoints here. So it's kind of a cascade down. So what the best way you can optimize your content is to start with desktop and then go to tablet and start making everything look nice there. So in this example, I think this looks pretty good on tablet. Maybe we can change the size here to maybe, let's change this to auto again, or maybe change this to 60 port height. And then we can move on to the landscape mode. And right now, already we have some problems. So what we could do here is maybe go to the columns and then go to change from horizontal to vertical. And then we also have to maybe decrease the image size. So let's say width, let's say 500 or 300 pixels. And also we're going to go to the hero section and change it from 60 viewport height to auto. And maybe also go to the first column and make this a vertical layout in the middle like this. And maybe also change the text to the middle like this. Also here, and the same thing here. So as you can see, you just want to play around and kind of center everything for the smaller devices, because that looks a lot better eventually. What you can also do is kind of hide images completely on smaller devices. So if I don't want to have this image, what I could do is just go to this little eye icon, and then it will just be gone. and I won't have any problem on smaller devices. And then obviously you want to go to the even smaller device right here and make sure everything looks good there as well. And just you can also open your website on your phone and make sure it actually looks good on your phone. But normally this is pretty accurate, so you could change the sizes here and make sure everything looks perfect on all sizes. And as you can see, we have removed this image on this breakpoint here, but the image is still there on the tablet breakpoint. So as you can see, it only trickles down to the right side and here to the left side. So now let's say we are finished building our website and we're ready to publish. So to publish our website, we have to go to the top right here and click on the publish button. So you could either publish your website on a webflow.io domain, which is not something that I would recommend, obviously, because it's very unprofessional. And if you want to use your own custom domain, for example, madixmedia.com, you have to add a site plan to your project, so to your website. Now let's click here to add a custom domain. And that will open up my the project settings of this website. You could also get there by just going to the little Webflow icon, going to project settings, and then here going to hosting. And that's basically the same place that we have just gotten to before. And the pricing plans are a bit confusing with Webflow. What you have to understand is that there are two different pricing plans. There is the pricing plan for your Webflow account, and then there's the pricing plan for each website that you're building inside of Webflow. So let's first talk about the account plan. So when I go to account here, go to upgrade plan, then I can see the different account plans. And by default, you are on the free plan, which for most people is probably enough because you have two projects that you can build without paying anything with maximum of 2 pages, but you can start building out your website. And once you have added a site plan, this right here, to your website, then a new slot will open up. And the only reason you would want to upgrade to the Lite plan is if you would want to export your code, or if you want to have enhanced staging, client billing, or actually client billing is also available for the free plan, or you want to have more unhosted projects. So for you, I would just stay on the free plan for now and just worry about the site plans. So let's talk about the site plans. So obviously, if you have an e-commerce website, you would have to choose the e-commerce site plans. But we're going to stay with the website site plans for now. And again, obviously, if you pay annually, so if you pay upfront, it will be a bit cheaper. So I'm going to choose monthly here. And pretty much for most of you, the only plans that would be interesting to you is the basic plan or the CMS plan. With the basic plan, you get 100 static pages, 25,000 monthly visits, 500 form submissions, and so on. The main difference is that if you have CMS items on your website, you want to go with the CMS plan. And another big difference is also that you can have multiple content editors. So maybe if you're a freelancer and you want to have your clients as editors so that you can design the website and then they can add content, then you also would want to go to the CMS plan, because then you can add content editors. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to go for the basic plan so I can show you exactly how to add a domain. So I'm going to go to add basic. So now that I have added this basic plan right here, I can scroll down and start publishing my website on my own custom domain. But first I have to add my custom domain to Webflow. So here we have to just scroll down and click on, or actually if you're somewhere else, just go to hosting on your project settings and then scroll down, go to add custom domain right here, and then just type in your domain. Now, for example, I'm just going to add madixtutorials.com, which is the domain that I own. Go to add domain, click OK here, and then they'll show you the exact instructions on how to assign your domain to Webflow. So just do what it says here or follow along with this video. I'm just going to show you how to do it with my registrar, which is Bluehost. So now I'm logged into my Bluehost account and I'm going to go to domains right here. Going to choose the madixtutorials.com domain. Going to go to DNS settings. And here's where I have to add 2 A-name records. And as we can see, there's already a host record with the @ symbol. So first I have to delete this specific record. I want to make sure it's just the right URL, Maddox Tutorials, that's fine. I'm going to delete this A name record right here. And then I'm going to start adding the A name records that they want me to add here. So I'm going to click on add record. The host record would be just the @ symbol, points to. This is what they give me here. It's copied. Just click on this value and then it copies it to your clipboard. Then I'm going to paste it in here. Going to click save. And I'm going to do the same thing again with this value right here. So again, add record, @ symbol for host record, points to, paste the address. Going to click save. Now I have to go ahead and add a CNAME record. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to look for CNAME, and I'm going to add a record here as well. I'm going to go to type is the CNAME. The name is www, so this would be www right here. And then the value is proxy -ssl.webflow.com. I'm just going to paste this in here, and then I'm going to click save. So there was actually an error because I already have a www CNAME record. So I'm going to just delete this, remove, and then I'm going to try and add it again. So let's click save again. Okay, so now it's saved, and that's basically all you have to do to assign your domain to Webflow. Now, probably it's not working yet because it takes some time to propagate through the entire web. So you can come back later, and then what you want to do also is click on check status, and then it will automatically connect your website to your domain. And now that we are already inside of the project settings right here, let's just go through each of these tabs and look at some of the settings. So here on the general settings, you can change the name of your website, you can change the subdomain, your folders. You can also add a favicon. A favicon is just the icon that you see in the top here on the browser. So you want to upload this little icon of your logo, of your brand, or whatever makes sense for your website. Then you can change the time zones. You can add a website password. Obviously, we want to remove the branding of Webflow. So we can save the changes here. And here you can also see an overview of your website's statistics. So you can see the size of your website, and also like site activity, how many people have visited your website, how many form submissions, how many pages you have, and so on. And then hosting, we have already checked out before. This is where you can choose your plans, where you can manage your domains and so on. Then editors is something, is like other people that you can add that can edit your site. So this, you can add them here. Then billing, this is how they will charge you your credit card. What you could also do is set up client billing. So if you are a freelancer, you can have your clients pay for the hosting of the Webflow websites. So you can have their websites in your Webflow account, but they will pay for the site plans, which is something that is also very useful here in Webflow. Here you have your SEO settings. Then here you have your forms, where the submissions will go to, and so on. It's pretty much very self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go too much in detail here. Your fonts, you can also add fonts. You can upload custom fonts to your website. You can also choose different Google fonts. Here are your backups. So if at any point you want to restore different stages of your website, you can go into your backups. Then integrations, you can add like Google Analytics and stuff like that. And custom code, you can add some custom code to your website. All right, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you in this tutorial. I hope this video helped you getting started with Webflow. And obviously there's a lot more to Webflow. It's an awesome website designer, website builder. You can do pretty much anything you want using Webflow. And there's a lot more features that I haven't covered yet in this tutorial. But I try to focus on the main features that will enable you to start building your first website using Webflow. Now, if this tutorial was helpful to you, I'd really appreciate if you'd take a second and just click that thumbs up button below this video, because it really helps out getting the video out to more people on YouTube that can also benefit from this information. Also, leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or if any comments about this video. I normally just always go back to the comments and reply to every single one. So if you want to see more tutorials just like this one, you can also subscribe to my channel. And that's pretty much it. With that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.